for the occasion, and really well done to our kinsmen. Councillor Urick.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I'll kind of echo with a thank you. So I wanted to thank on behalf of Christmas on the Bay, all the volunteers and organizers that were involved in that, because likewise, it was a very successful another 4 days. Weather was interesting. You asked for a little bit of snow for ambience. We got a little bit more than we hoped for, but it worked out quite well. And I think it was about attendance of about 6,400 people over those 4 days. So it was a good success, and looking forward to next year with just a little bit less snow.
It was a terrific event, Councillor Urick. Well done. Alex, I believe you have a couple of announcements to share.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So holiday celebrations in the municipality. Please note that the municipal office at 21 Trowbridge and 15 Trowbridge are closed from December 23rd to January 1st and reopen on January 2nd, 2025. Visit our website, meaford.ca/holiday closure for the full list of facility closures and different hours of operation. We want to wish everyone a safe and happy holiday, and we look forward to seeing everyone back in council on January 13th, 2025. Also, overnight parking and snowplow reminder, snowfall has arrived. Thank you to our dedicated snowplow operators who have been working tirelessly to keep our roads and sidewalks clear and safe these past weeks. Reminder to give snowplows plenty of space and never attempt to pass a working plow. Winter overnight parking restrictions are in effect. No parking is permitted on municipal streets or parking lots between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. to ensure safe winter road maintenance. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. And I just want to take a moment on this, our last council meeting of 2024, to just on behalf of all of council, to express our appreciation to all of our wonderful staff. We have so many great employees working for the municipality of Meaford, and we're lucky to have you all, and I hope a lot of you are listening today. You're all here for the same reason we are. We all love Meaford and your efforts. I just want you to know how each and every day, everything that you do goes such a long way to making Meaford the beautiful, wonderful place that it is, whether we're all here to live, work, play, or visit. And I just want all of our staff to know how much your council appreciates you, and we wish you a safe and happy holiday season. And a short message to our residents. We want you to know how much we appreciate your support and your communications to us. I urge all of you, if you have a question or a concern, to come to council to share it with us if you're able, and if not, please feel free to send us an email or drop into the municipal office to get information or get responses to your questions. And I'm going to suggest to our residents, if you see a member of staff, stop and say hi, stop and say thank you, or if you're driving by, give them a wave. It would just go such a long way to helping everyone know how much they are appreciated this holiday season. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move now into public participation. As I just said, members of the public are encouraged to provide council with their comments and questions. Presentations must be prearranged with legislative services before the agenda is released and will be limited to 10 minutes. If a member of the public wishes to make a deputation on items the council agenda or ask a public question of council, they may do so either in person at the council chambers or remotely via Zoom, phone, or internet. Members of the public wishing to make a deputation or ask a public question must register in advance with Legislative Services by 10 a.m. on today, December the 9th, or by contacting the clerk at clerk@meaford.ca or by calling 519-538-1060, extension 1110. An email with access information will be sent to those who register for remote participation. Deputations are limited to 5 minutes and public questions are limited to 2 minutes. The public can watch this meeting live via the Municipality of Meaford's YouTube channel at www.meaford.ca/YouTube. We do have 3 presentations today. The first is from Cindy Slee, who's going to talk to us about food trucks in Meaford. Welcome, Cindy. Please go to the podium, and it looks like the microphone is already on for you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Keaveney and Council. I am speaking this afternoon to advocate on behalf of food trucks that have operated in the municipality of Meaford. I would first like to thank Deputy Mayor Keaveney, Councillor Forder, and especially Councillor Urick for personally meeting with one of the frustrated food truck business operators. There are two food trucks in particular that feel that the process, communication, and transparency have been rather lacking within the municipality. Burger Chef and the Flying Fork food trucks have both felt that they have been not treated fairly, and their experience dealing with the municipality as at times has not been pleasurable, as rules seem to keep changing year after year and sometimes within the same year. Seeing the lineup of fishermen, bikers, walkers, boaters, local residents, and tourists that visited our harbor and enjoyed the food this past September at the Flying Fork was great. It's an added bonus to our small town that we certainly would like to continue to attract these small businesses in the future. But in order to do so, we must have a smooth, consistent, transparent process that is equal and fair to all vendors applying. Plus have a strategy to deal with outstanding issues that arose in the past and that may prevent food trucks from wanting to come back to Meaford in the future. I urge you to review our bid process and look at other small towns like Wasaga Beach, Owen Sound, and Port Elgin that continually attract food trucks year after year. The citizens of Meaford enjoy the convenience of the easy takeout food and the ability to have a relaxing time with their families while not only enjoying delicious food that was prepared for them, but also taking in the beauty of our quaint harbor. Thank you. And Merry Christmas.
And the same to you, Cindy. Are there any questions for Cindy before she leaves the podium? Councillor Urenka.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Less of a question, more of a comment. And thank you, Cindy, for the presentation. Ironically, when you look at social media, and you shouldn't, there almost seems to be a perception that Meaford doesn't want food trucks, and that's the furthest thing from the truth. I will say that, yes, I think there's been some choppy waters. And I agree that I think we need to do whatever needs to happen to facilitate it, because it is an economic development advantage. It is tourism. It is an added bonus for residents. So I think you're right. It needs to be done. I know at Christmas in the Bay this year, we had a truck in there. Had a bit of an issue, which came up this year, didn't come up last year. And again, there seems to be a bit of a lack of consistency. So I would agree with you, and I hope moving forward that we can just reach that degree of at least predictability and consistency to facilitate the trucks to be successful, because we do all want them.
Right.
Thank you, Councillor Urick. And I would just add to that, go ahead, Councillor Greenfield, and then I'll come back with a comment.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Keaveney, and thank you, Ms. Lee. In chatting with the food trucks that we did have briefly this year, what were their main concerns? Was it a license fee? Was it availability of locations? Can you give us some examples of what they were mostly concerned with?
They were mostly concerned regarding, one was being told that they could park there longer than they were eventually allowed to. When they first signed up, they thought that they would be able to be there longer. And that was a problem. There was other issues regarding bylaw people coming around and saying that there was no garbage can there, which there was garbage cans, just a little bit down. Also, I know Burger Chef had some issues last year regarding applying and then being told they got it and then being bumped out by somebody else. So there has been some issues.
Mhm. Any other questions from council? And Cindy, I just wanted to thank you for coming, sharing those thoughts with us today. We all do want to see food trucks come and be successful in Meaford, and
Okay.
Okay. And I just wanted to also share that I have spoken with staff and I know that they're working on a new application process to make things more simplified and more clear for food truck owners next year. So I do think things will get better. Thank you. Our next presentation is from Catherine Daw, Board Chair of the Collingwood Climate Action Team, and Leslie Lewis from the Green Economy Southern Georgian Bay Regional Hub Pilot. Welcome, Catherine.
Hi.
Nice to see you in Meaford.
Thank you. Yeah, and the roads were not too bad, so I'm glad I was able to get here.
Great.
Deputy Mayor Kivney and councillors, I'm really pleased to be here today on behalf of the Green Economy Canada, the Collingwood Climate Action Team, and the Meaford Climate Group that is starting to form here. And if you would just go to the next slide, please. Oh, that's me. I'm just used to having someone else do it for me. Oh, there we go. I'm pushing the right button. Yeah, okay. So just before I get into the main part of the agenda, I just wanted to talk to this slide very quickly, which is around the shared responsibility that we all have with regard to climate action and the changing climate that we're facing today. So government has a role in terms of establishing policy and setting guidelines and bylaws and all of the other things and providing direction to citizens and the community on how we should be working on various issues, and in particular, something like an emergency, which you declared regarding climate. Community also has a role to play in that they have to look after their homes. They need support for that. They have choices to make in terms of, what they eat, where they get food, how they consume, how they live. And finally, businesses have a role to play in terms of what they provide to offer for sale and to sustain themselves in a way that works for not only themselves, but for the local economy as well as everybody that lives here. So one of the things that's happened is that often climate action teams really focus on government and community and miss that element of business. And that's what I'm here really just to focus on. So I just want to talk quickly about the journey. How did we get to this point in time where we actually have a pilot that is running in the South Georgian Bay community? And then I'm going to talk about multi-sector partnerships in our advisory committee, and then the benefits for the region, and an ask that I'm going to make of the council. So I'm going to go through these very quickly, these first couple of slides. So the Institute of Southern Georgian Bay, which you all probably are aware of, launched a series in 2021 called Our Sustainable Future. And Collingwood Climate Action Team, along with many other organizations, were involved in partnering and developing that program and featured inspiring leaders, specifically around green economy. We heard from people like the Center for Social Innovation about what a next economy would look like. We heard for Sustainable Waterloo Region, what they were doing around economies and climate change. And also we heard from the Green Economy Canada themselves. Town of Blue Mountain initiated a Future Story program around that same time and also published 20 bold actions featuring interconnected initiatives, including the establishment of a green economy hub, not only for themselves, but I believe for the rest of the region. Then we went on and we hosted 2 other years worth of effort. We did one on local sustainable economies, and we had heard from the Peterborough Green Economy Hub and what they were doing. They were one of the most recent ones that launched in 2018. And there's some really interesting stories in terms of what they were able to do. At the end of 23, we had an in-person event where we talked about what would a regional green economy hub look like. And then in early 24, we established a design working team to discuss what we would do next. And that's when we got introduced and started to talk to the green economy. And then we launched into what we are doing now. So the Green Economy Canada is a national organization. It's a not-for-profit. They operate as a social enterprise, which means that they provide fees for service. They charge fees for a service, but they don't make any money at doing that. So they just provide what it costs them to do the service and provide it to the members. They have establishing and are continuing to establish regional hubs across the country. And Sustainable Waterloo was the original origin of the Green Economy Canada concept. We have been talking to them now for almost 3 years about this. And we, as the Collingwood Climate Action Team, was asked to be the supporting organization for this region. And the region is in a pilot stage with the 6 municipalities of South Georgian Bay until the end of December of 2025. At that time, we'll be assessing whether it's sustainable enough for us to expand it into other parts of Grey County and also into Simcoe County and potentially Bruce. So those counties are all very interested in what we're doing with this pilot. We have key local stakeholders that are helping us with that. And that is across all of the different municipalities, which is why there's representation today from citizens that are involved here in Meaford with regard to climate action. The intent of the pilot is to sign up and attract businesses and organizations, because organizations are also businesses. When I say organizations, I'm talking about not-for-profit organizations. So churches, community centers, all sorts of other organizations that are in your community. We are running 2 cohorts. So one that started this month and one that'll be starting in May. And the goal is to establish 8 to 10 businesses or organizations in each of those cohorts that don't have to be in the same business, but they are local to this region. And they will each individually go on a path with Green Economy Canada, leading them through their process of taking their carbon footprint, establishing some targets, setting a sustainability plan for themselves that the business will own and function, provide one-on-one support for them, do some coaching and provide tools as well as access to grants and funding. So we actually have 8 businesses that have already signed up and are covering a number of the municipalities, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. But I also wanted to indicate to you that this is a multi-sectoral partnership. In other words, it's not just me standing here representing the Collingwood Climate Action Team. We're here as a group of 6 individual climate action groups across the 6 municipalities that are functioning to get this work done. We are leading it because we're a charity and we have a little bit more structure than some of the others. And we have some capacity because we also have a staff person. So we're only leading it for those reasons, but it doesn't mean that I'm leading it solely on my own. I'm leading it with this group of partners. We also have the Institute as a seed funder, as well as the South Georgian Bay Innovation Fund, who is providing funding for our media and communications with regard to that. We have government funders. So the town of Blue Mountain and Collingwood are currently funding us and are funding us for 2024 and into 2025. And I am doing deputations to every one of the municipalities across the 6. You are my 5th deputation and seeking funding from you. And I will talk about that towards the end. I also want to indicate that we have in our partnership, we also have 2 businesses that have committed to work with us as active partners and be promoters of this hub pilot project. One is Georgian Bay Spirit Co. out of Collingwood, and the other one is the Beaver Valley Outreach, which is a not-for-profit organization based in the town of Blue Mountains. So what have we been up to so far? We have a project plan. We have a working team of 4 of us that are actively involved in running the project. We have a lot of volunteer activity from all of the different organizations that are in the that are across the region. We've created a business development plan and a marketing plan, and we're underway in doing those efforts across the region. We set up calls to talk with us initially just to see whether they are interested enough or whether they want to move on to a conversation with the Green Economy Canada. And if they do, then we connect with them and they walk them through the process, provide them an opportunity to understand what it is, and then what the cost will be to them. And then when would they be able to sign up? They sign up as a member and they sign up for an annual membership fee. So they don't have to, they can stay for 1 year or they can stay for 5 or however long they want to be. So it isn't something that they have to commit to for a long time should they choose not to. So as I said, our first cohort is launching. And we are very excited about that because I think these are early adopter types of organizations and businesses that know that they want to do this work. And the hope is that our next pilot group that will go through in May will be a little bit of a different diversity and we really are trying to attempt to cover all of the 6 municipalities within the South Georgian Bay. We've hosted some events in Wasaga Beach, Collingwood, and the town of Blue Mountains, and we plan to continue that process. So there will be something here in this region for your businesses and community to come to terms with that. I just want to also mention that we have an advisory committee, which is made up of all of those multi-sectoral partnerships that I spoke to as well. So there is representation on our multi-sectoral advisory committee from the town of Blue Mountains and from Collingwood in terms of a staff person sitting in. Those meetings are held on a bi-monthly basis, so it's only every 2 months. And they are there to help support and advise and direct or give us some guidance on how we're doing with the project. So how will it support the region? Well, for businesses, it has an opportunity for them to lower their operational costs, strengthen their brand identity and customer loyalty. They can attract more customers and clients as well, because people are actually asking and looking for, what are you doing around sustainability? How are you as a business trying to function in a changing world where climate is going to be a factor for some of the decisions you're making and how you're running your business? And that could be as far as like mitigating a lot of your business costs that are related to climate change. For example, a flood that occurs or a fire that is created as a result of climate change. It could be that you're not going to be able to get the same kinds of products because they're no longer on the market. How are you doing with that? How are you attracting and retaining employees that want to stay with you, but want to also know that you're doing good for the environment as much as anybody else around us is? And it helps them increase their connections with community and just demonstrates the community that they too want to be involved in supporting sustainable efforts in terms of where we go now and how we are going to live into our future. For the people in the community too, I think there's a really interesting benefit to them. It attracts people and employees that want to come and work for somebody that is caring about the environment, and they want to have some influence at work. So you're going to find that people are going to start coming to your community if they know that you are on this path of creating businesses that are more sustainable. Youth in particular are really looking for that. They're asking for it, and they want to be proud and have some input into how a business is actually functioning from a sustainability practice. I think it will also promote a healthier and safer and more productive environment for our communities. And it encourages people to stay or to come back to our community. And I've heard that many times from some of the people I've been talking to over the last 6 months with this project, and even before that. And for our municipality and our government, it's about leading by example. You did declare a climate emergency back in 2019, and it is an emergency. It's not going away. We need to help you through this project. We'll be able to help you meet some of your pollution reduction targets. In Collingwood, I know that over 22% of the GHG emissions that are occurring in the Collingwood area is about 22 or 23% is related to business. And so they do have a role to play in how we meet those targets that we've established, not only for our own municipalities, but for the province and for our country, and meet that Paris Agreement targets that have been set. We want to be able to see that we can track new businesses that that they want to come and work here, that they want to bring their business here because it's a sustainable community. And we can attract and retain new residents as well as increase employment opportunities. So my ask of you today is to support this undertaking, recognizing its benefits and the result and the support that it will have for your climate emergency declaration, for your own corporate plans, and for your own community action plans around climate change, and the fact that you declared a declaration in November of 2019. And we're at the 5th year mark of that. So now's the time for us to really start to step up some of the actions that we need to take, and business has a role to play. And I'm asking for the council and the municipality to support our efforts in that regard. And also to have a seat at the table of the advisory committee and to be a funder of this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine, for your presentation, and congratulations on all you've accomplished so far.
Thank
That's
you.
a lot of work.
Yeah.
Are there any questions for Catherine? Yes, please go ahead, Councillor Greenfield.
Thanks, Lady Chair. Thank you for your presentation. There's no doubt about it. Climate change is very much with us. In the last 8 days, we've had winter and spring. I just wanted to mention, I'm sure you're aware of this. Our municipality has had our community improvement plan. Community improvement plan for several years now, and one of the primary things that this plan advocates, it offers loans and grants, but primarily for climate change products for businesses on the main street. Things like energy efficient doors, windows, lighting, solar panels, more efficient furnaces. It seems to me that there's a pretty good chance for a partnership here with you folks. I think we're already into this very much, but I think there's opportunity for another step
Right.
further.
Yep.
Can you comment upon that?
I think that's really interesting that you're doing it. I'm really pleased to hear that because I think that's really important. Part of the issue is to bring businesses into the fold, so to speak, and have them take on some of the active responsibility, which is why I talked about it at the beginning, that it is a shared responsibility. And they will be forced to change if they don't want to change now. They will have to probably go through that. And I'll just give you a couple of examples. So Georgian Bay Spirit Co. has been on this path for a couple of years on their own, of their own volition. But they've discovered that a lot of the emissions that they are creating are not what they thought that they were. And so I do think that there's a lot of things that we can do that are the easy, low-hanging fruit pieces, but there are also some in-depth things that will benefit the business even greater. And so my comment to you is that I do think it's great that the municipality is supporting the businesses. They do need some of that help. They need financial help for some of this stuff because it can't all be on their plate, correct? And so the way that this program works is that it's a membership fee, but it's based on the size of your business. So they're really focused on small to medium-sized businesses. They're not going after the large corporations like the Canadian Tires or the Loblaws because they already have sustainability plans and have put a lot in place that they're spreading out to their local stores and that sort of thing across the country. This is really focused on the small to medium. So anything from a one-person operation to about 500 to 1,000 employees. And so it's scaled based on the number of employees you have and the number of locations that you have. And right now, that fee for someone that's a small business that is in the 1 to 5 that takes on the lead track, which is the one I described, which is all of the carbon auditing and then building a plan and getting all the support and taking some training and getting access to funding and grants. Right now, that is $1,500 for a small business. However, what we are doing right now is we have an opportunity to give them a 50% discount on their first year of membership. So that means for a small business, that's only $750. We're also talking to the RTO 7, who for businesses that fall into the tourism side of things, they will also get a small grant from them. If they are even retail will classify as tourism to a degree, and they'll get a small grant for them. And also the Community Futures group is giving us grants as well. So that there's still skin in the game for the business to be paying for it. And it isn't just for the things that you've mentioned, like the heating, because often they are not owning their business property, they are renting from someone. So those are sometimes in the hands of a landlord. These are about how they choose their products, where they're getting their products, how they're transporting them to them, all of those kinds of things. So they do need to have some skin in the game as well. And I think this actually has demonstrated with Georgian Bay Spirit Co. What they discovered is that they have cut their emissions by 10% by just simply doing things that they never expected that they were going to do. And they weren't about fixing their facility. They were about how they were transporting goods and services out to their various buyers, for example. So they've cut a lot of their costs simply by changing what they're putting their product in and how they're producing it. So I think there's still opportunity. And yes, we do need to support them as buyers of services from a business as much as government supporting, which I think is also really an effective part of it. So long-winded answer, I hope.
That's
But I wanted
wonderful.
to explain it to you because I think it's really important to understand there are things that I think the business needs to own and carry with them. And so we're trying to make it as easy as possible for them to join and get the experience. And some of them will stay for a year, some will stay on for 10, 15 years. And that's what we've seen in terms of the effort, but it helps them to get started, and maybe they have to go on their own after that if they wish. If you do stay every year, you get to get another audit done that shows you how you are doing against your sustainability plan. So there's a way of them continuing to see what advances they can do. And they're in charge of how much they want to spend and when they want to take those targets on.
Thank you. Councillor Urick, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll echo Deputy Mayor's comments.
Mhm.
Great work, and
Thank
thank you
you.
for all the efforts. It's very, very important. The Institute, yeah, I mean, we obviously are very big fans of the
Mhm.
Institute and think they're doing amazing work. Coincidentally, I was at a Conservation Ontario video meeting this morning,
Mhm.
and we were discussing climate change in general. 2, 3 years ago, we were at about $1 billion in cost of effect of impact of economic, or I mean, of environmental issues.
Mhm.
Last year it was up to 2 to 3. We're at 7.75 billion this year, and that was measured at the 3/4 mark. So this is obviously a huge problem, and it's
Yep.
only accelerating. So yeah, one thing we discussed last week, so this is a 2-part long-winded question. Shut up, Steve. One of the things is regarding funding, I'd be very curious just to see what amount that Blue Mountains and Collingwood did do in their amounts.
Mhm.
One of the things as well, though, I just think from a leadership perspective, we discussed at the last meeting that from an economic development perspective, we're looking at our new ECDF strat plan, which does involve environmental capacity as well. One of the things I would like to see moving forward is that Meaford being an environmentally conscious, you talked about leadership,
Mhm.
and as a community, you need to say that. So we're going to be going out to the community to have community engagement, to talk about how we can move forward. What does our town want to be? What do we want to look like?
Yeah.
Not just do we want to be like in tourism or economic development, but where do we want to be in environmental stewardship? So I really think we need to work closely with the Institute, yourself, and organizations like that to make sure we're going the right direction.
Yeah.
And we are at kind of the head of that drive.
Mhm.
But again, going back, I'm just curious what kind of
Sure.
financial support you've received thus far.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much for your questions and comments. I really appreciate it. So we're not asking for a large amount. We're asking somewhere in the range of $3,500 to $5,000 as the commitment from local government. Collingwood is giving us $3,500 this year and $5,000 next year. And Town of Blue Mountains is giving us, they were asked for 35 and they made it the donation, the grant for this year, 5,000, and they're giving us another 5,000 next year. And I will say, like, this is probably one of the largest projects that our group has undertaken, and this region has probably seen from a climate action perspective. That's a regional project where everybody's going to have hands in it. The budget overall for this project is in the $85,000 to $90,000 range, because I can't do this as a volunteer. I'm a volunteer board chair. I'm doing some of the work because it needs to get done, but we have arms and legs that we need to hire, and we have some of that already. And we have a memorandum of understanding with the Green Economy Canada for their participation in this hub, because they're running it as a separate, they are not running it the way they would normally run it. So we're getting a lot of services from them. So there's a fee that we're paying them over the year and a half. And that's approximately $35,000. So there's a big chunk of the budget that is going to Green Economy for their support and running this with us and for us. And I would just say that you're right. It is a journey. And I think it's really important that if you're at the beginning of this is a great opportunity for you to demonstrate that there's already not a solution, but a game plan of how this region can become more economically sustainable. And I think that's a really good message that you could take out to the people here. And I know it's a lot of the work that's being done in Collingwood because that's where I live. And they've just gone through a bunch of master plans and an upgrade on their official plan. So they've included this as part of their work and their pillars. So I really appreciate that you're forward thinking from that perspective. Thank you.
Councillor Bartley, did you have a question?
Thank you for your talk. Thank you. We did bring a climate emergency forward, and I do believe in it. I have several acquaintances that do not believe in it.
Mhm.
And my answer to them is, it would, 30 years from now, we don't want to say, oops, maybe we should have did something.
Mhm.
So I think we should be doing something. Now, I'm sorry if I got it wrong, but most of what your presentation was to me was more economic development than
Mhm.
climate change. That's what I got out of it.
Okay.
Um, does your group have a list of tangible actions that we can take upon to help with climate change? I didn't hear any through the
Okay.
response. Do you have something, or is it more economic development is what I got out of the
Okay.
talk?
So that's interesting that you got that, because that wasn't my message, but you know, everybody hears things in different ways. So it's about helping current businesses as much as how you can bring more economic development to your region. But if we talk about businesses per se that are existing here, this program is focused on businesses that are currently running in your community, and they will get, for their membership fee, the ability to have a carbon footprint done of how their business is functioning. And that would look at energy, water, waste, transportation, how their products, what are they doing around that? And they get a scientific, internationally recognized carbon business audit done on their business. And out of that, they will then have an idea of where they might want to start in terms of reducing their footprint as a business. And then what happens is they will work with Green Economy Canada team members that are expert in helping them build their own sustainability plan, establish targets as to what they want to try to achieve in year 1, year 2, year 3. And then they will get one-on-one support, because we know with small businesses, they don't always have the capacity to do this kind of extra work that we're adding on to their list of to-dos in addition to running and surviving as a business and growing as a business. And so the one-on-one support is for whatever they need. If that means that if they need some employee support, or they have to guide them through some of the work, they will do that. They have one-on-one, they have coaching training sessions for their staff and for them to participate in. And that will be cohort driven. So that will be other businesses joining in that one-on-one that training period as well. So they'll hear what other businesses are doing, so they'll gain that experience. And then they have access to resources and tools and things that are being done for businesses that are similar to theirs already. Green Economy Canada has been around since 2013. The Sustainable Waterloo region was started in 2009. So there's been almost 20 years of experience, or more actually, because it's probably a little bit more than that, from 2009 to 2024, 15 years, let's say. And so there's lots of businesses they've already had experience with that are similar to what is going to be here. So they'll bring that to the table, and that will support that business on their own journey of how they become sustainable. The reason that we're doing it as a hub or as a cohort group is that there's lots of benefit in them being with other businesses, whether they're in their business or not, to learn together and to form a foundational community of businesses that are working on this together, then starts to let it ripple out to other businesses in your community. The economic development piece that you might have heard that maybe I overemphasized is that it provides opportunity for people that want to stay here to work for a business that is being more sustainable. You hear it all the time. I hear it from my own children, and I hear it from some of the youth that work with us, because this is only one program that Collingwood Climate Action Team works on. It's our biggest one right now, but we work on we act as an advisor to the council They don't have a committee. I know you have a sustainability committee, and I haven't had an opportunity to meet with them because they're not in sitting until January, but I did want to make this deputation before the end of the year. And then we have community programs that we do. We deliver workshops and we help members of the community decide what they want to do in terms of their own plans for their own homes. And that's not just a mitigation, but how do they adapt? How do we think about things differently so that we can do it? As simple as when you go to change your roof, you should be thinking about a white roof because that reflects the heat away. So there's lots of things that we're doing. This is just a big program that's really focused on the business side of it. And I'm not sure if I've really completely answered your question. I hope that gives you a little bit more of a better understanding what the program's about.
Thank you. And just starting with the carbon audit and the rest of what you said, it now makes sense. And if
Okay.
if you said it in your original presentation and I missed it,
Yep.
I apologize.
No, you do not. I do apologize because it's easy to hear things and miss others, right? And the intent is because it's a renewable membership, they can decide that I have enough that I can go and do it alone, or I can't afford it. What can I do? But they could still remain part of the cohort group and gain the local event process that we're going to go for. They won't so they get access to national events as well that are run. So they just ran a workshop on greenwashing to all of their members on Bill C-59 that's just being passed by the federal government to make sure that people aren't greenwashing in terms of what they're doing with their businesses. So they were able to attend they'll get access to those kinds of things. They'll get access to funding that they wouldn't have access to otherwise. And I'll give you a simple example. The Green Economy Canada got a grant from the federal government for $5 million to distribute through their members for them to put EV chargers at their places of business. So that's something that a local business wouldn't have the awareness of, would have maybe the resources to go for it, or would even be able to do it if they didn't have something like Green Economy Canada there doing those things. So they work with large corporate clients, they work with the federal government, and they work at the provincial level as well, gaining those kinds of accesses.
Councillor Bell, did you have a question? Oops, you're not on.
They're all different, right?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Catherine, for your presentation. I think you'll already know that probably a good friend of yours now, Leslie, is a very invaluable voice on our sustainability advisory committee, of which I chair.
Mhm.
And if there's one thing that I am learning, that the word sustainability and climate change, it's basically an endless subject matter.
Yeah.
But I just want to leave you with what I think our group is leaning towards in our tenure, and that is a cultural change.
Mhm.
If we can think differently about what we can do,
Mhm.
I think that as a society, we can see an impact. So all of us, with whoever we meet, with whatever group we're with,
Mhm.
whatever we're doing, I think that if our group comes forward with something in the future for our municipality, it would only be one more small step towards a very large leap. So
Mhm.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your work,
Mhm.
and nice seeing you today, Leslie.
Thank you. And I wholeheartely agree. In my business life, one of the things that I ran a consulting business, and we worked on change and business transformational work. So change is my middle name because, and it's not easy because, what happens is the top decides that we're going to make a big change. But then, and they've been talking about for years, right? But then the minions below are then told to go off and do it, but they've not been in that conversation of what needs to be changed and why and all of those kinds of things. So they struggle with it. And it is a big cultural shift. We can't live the way we've been living going forward because it's not sustainable the way it is, right? We live on a planet that has a finite resource pool. it's a closed loop system and we're trying to work in an open system of grow without realizing that we're taking, and there's no way that we're going to be able to replace if we keep at the rate that we're going. So I think that the work of your committee is really important, and I really appreciate the fact that you've thought of it from a cultural perspective and that it isn't doing it all at once and it isn't big. You just have to decide you're going to start, and then you start. And if it's the tiniest thing, that's great, because then it makes it you feel that you're actually moving forward. And that's what I think we really all need to be thinking about, is how do we effectively move forward? And I always say you can go fast. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. And this is an element of we need to all go together, leaving nobody behind.
You're absolutely right, Catherine. Such an interesting conversation. And I think Councillor
Mhm.
Urick is dying to say one more thing.
No, thank you, Madam Chair. More of a question. So piggybacking on what Councillor Greenfield said, and when you talked about actual examples, so when you talk
Yes.
about carbon audits and things like that,
Mhm.
those are tangible benefits. In your experience with some of the organization or municipalities or cities that have done this in the past,
Mhm.
it would seem to be that from a CIP perspective, not only would they have the opportunity individually to do something, but do businesses work towards like bulk buying collectively? Because if they're all kind of trying to improve
Yeah.
and they're doing things, and obviously doing actual fundamental changes,
Yep.
is that one of the goals?
Yes, it is. It's to build business community that are doing stuff together that may not even be in the same businesses, right? So I think that's really the other piece. And that's why I say, like, they could all go it alone. But if we create community by doing this hub and by running these cohorts to demonstrate that even if you're living in, because right now we cover Wasaga, we've got Wasaga Beach, Clearview, Collingwood, and Tana Blue Mountains are where the businesses come from. My goal is that every one of the regions, every one of the municipalities has at least a few businesses in this pilot project, so we can prove that it doesn't have to be just Collingwood, or it doesn't just have to be Town of Blue Mountains. It's really to be building community across the region. And then if we can get more in each of the in the municipalities, then there's opportunity for them to get together. And then it's sort of like tell your friends and so on and so on. And also just to say, hey, I'm thinking about it, and wow, you're thinking about it too. What could we do together? So I think there's a lot that we can create from this kind of a project that has just unexplainable benefits that we'll only see when they happen. Okay, thanks for that.
Catherine, I just want to really thank you for making the trip from Collingwood today. This really has been an incredible discussion. We will be continuing with our budget conversations in January, so I think we'll have that added to the list. And I just also wanted to remind everyone that Grey County is also looking at a hub, which you will be aware of. So I think
Yes.
Meaford is in a very enviable position
Mhm.
of having the opportunity to work with your group and to also work with the county group. So
Right.
that should bring good things in terms of climate change recognition
Right.
to Meaford.
Thank you. And I'll just say that Rebecca Denard, who
Yes.
you've all met, has just joined our board.
Oh, that's
And
great.
so, and she has a lot of experience with the green economy work, because she did it in Sudbury where she lives. And so she's just a delightful addition to our team, and that we're really looking forward to having her experience at the table with regard to this pilot project. So,
That's a
thank you.
great catch. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine,
Okay,
so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We'll move forward. Michelle Hunter from ROMP, the Rural Ontario Medical Program, and Dr. Jeff Moran, Docs on Ice for 2026. Do we have them online, Richard or Alex? Do we? Okay. Okay. We don't see Michelle today, but we'll look forward hopefully to hearing more about that wonderful program at another meeting. Alex, do we have any deputations today or any public questions? No, no public questions registered? Okay. Then we will move forward to council inquiries. Thank you all for coming. Happy holidays. Do we have any council inquiries today? Yes. Councillor Urick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I received, I guess, Jessica, this will probably end up in your court. I received an email from a resident who was talking about, and I totally appreciate a lot of snow fell over those 3 days. Swarthmore, the cul-de-sac, where it was cleared out, the huge snowbanks were piled up, and it was right at the entrance of the Georgian Trail. It wasn't kind of cleared out so that you could still access the Georgian Trail. So just, they had sent pictures along with that. So I'm just bringing it to the attention of, and I know, like I said, we were just trying to stay ahead of the snow at that point. It might have been difficult, but I presume that's kind of a consideration when they're clearing snow in that area, that they're keeping the entrance to the trail open. Or if they're not, should they be?
Through the chair, I can only assume that our operators are doing everything in their power to make everything accessible. A friendly reminder that if we do receive those, it is honestly the best to go through the right avenues and in receiving those types of inquiries so that you're not stuck with them. It's something that we could have and still can. So if you want to forward it along, we can address from more of an operational standpoint, and then they're not waiting for an answer. So it's just a friendly, because we will get a lot of snow requests. Just a friendly reminder that they can always send requests directly to roads@meaford.ca, or that's probably the best way, and we can definitely make sure the right people get them.
And this was later in the game, so yeah, it was kind of something, and it was observation they made late, so it was only a day or two ago, so it wasn't during the course. It probably would have been good to bring it up then, but I will let them know to make sure they do that.
Thank you, Rob. Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Lady Chair. I have actually two questions for Jessica, if I may. And the best part is the first one is a two-part one. So Jessica, I wondered if you could give us updates on Bridges 21 and 22 and also Lakeshore Road South. There is construction going on both of those. And just wondering if you have, I know certainly the Bridges one is fairly recent, but do you have any idea of when either or both of those projects will be finalized? I know Lakeshore is coming along. Oh, if you can help me out.
Through the chair, Lakeshore is actually complete. So that is the update. The work there is done for the season. Asphalt is down. Because of the time of year that the project was finalized, it was late in the season to be doing like grass, sod, any of that kind of stuff. So the plan is that they will be back in the spring to finish out any sort of restoration work that needs to happen, just because the weather wasn't in our favor to be doing any of those things. Bridges 21 and 22. So as you can imagine, the timeline changes fairly regularly based on the weather. As of right now, the plan is, our understanding is that the superstructures are anticipated to be delivered and installed either late this week or early next week. And it all depends on what happens with the weather. That could be late next week and early the week after. So we are trying to keep updates pretty up to date on our website with that project. Our communications folks we feed them the information as soon as we hear them. So if anyone is dying to know and you can't get in touch with me, by all means, we're trying to keep the website on that particular item as updated as we possibly can. Yes.
Thanks, thanks, Jessica. It sounds like good news on both of those. And this second question, and I apologize, I didn't give you any advance on this, and I just wondered the blue box transition with waste management, is it is it going anywhere quick?
Through the chair, that's a good one too, without any advance notice. So as maybe we remember, our contract with Miller's right now is extended until December 31st of 2025. So we have a full year yet to figure out what our next steps are. That's not to say that the world of Blue Box is still always changing. I feel like there's still a lot of questions. There's a lot of municipalities that have transitioned and are still trying to work through some kinks. So what ours will look like at the moment, I don't have, and you'll know as soon as we know. We have already started the conversation about working on the tender for the like post 2026 transition. So that is something that we're currently actively working on. But as you can imagine, there's a lot of questions that we need answered still. So that'll be a big one that'll come through you guys once we're done. And we'll have more information to share at the moment, but that's one thing that just seems to be constantly changing. So I don't have a good solid answer other than we have this year to get our tender together and hopefully solidify a plan.
And Councillor Bartley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just answering your question, Harley, Tim Lee sent out to council updated version on Bridges 21, 22. 2 hours ago, I had the rubber boots on and down in the trenches at the bridges. The cement embutments are 3/4 done. The crane, a local crane company is there, and they are awaiting the steel. I'm going to guess next week, but it looks very promising at the bridges. As far as the waste management, and tell me if I'm wrong, Jessica, I think what's throwing a wrench into it is the pop companies have decided not to participate, which I think threw a real wrench into the Ontario plan. They want to change the way it's done, start charging a deposit on pop cans, and you have to take them back. That's their end of the story. So I think that's what the biggest wrench is thrown into the Blue Box program, and I don't know where it'll land.
Okay, and I just had one question, if I may, following up on a conversation I had just before council with Denise. And so I'll ask Alex just to help me here with the process. We did have a presentation a couple of meetings ago with questions regarding proposed pickleball courts at the SkyDev site. So do we need to request Denise to respond to that, or what is the proper procedure going forward to get some answers back to that particular resident?
Thanks. Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I normally wouldn't respond to presentations unless I was asked to do something, but I'm happy to put together a response. I think I have provided one already to senior staff already, just to get that in case anyone was asking for follow-up. So I can just use that. It's already ready to go, I think.
That would be wonderful. If council's in agreement, then we'll ask Denise to go forward and provide that response to the resident. Okay, yeah, that's okay, Denise? Thank you. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Any other council inquiries? Then we will move forward. Motions and bylaws for decision, 8.1 consent agenda, and we do not have any items in the consent today, so we'll move forward into items for consideration. 8.2A, the 2024-54- interim tax rate. The recommendation be it resolved that bylaw 2024-54, being a bylaw to provide for a 2025 interim tax levy and to provide for the payment of taxes, be taken as read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed. May I have a mover to put that on the floor, please? Councillor Bell, and a seconder? Councillor Urick, thank you. Is there any discussion on that report? Councillor Bell, please.
Deputy Mayor, we on council have seen this procedure many, many times in the past. It's a standard procedure to get this into place, and can fully support it.
And any further comments from council? Okay, then I will ask for an all in favor of the report as presented. Thank you very much. And the next report, FIN 2024-20-2025-2033, Financial Plan 089-301A. The recommendation that Council of the Municipality of Meaford approve the 2025 to 2033 Financial Plan 089-301A and direct staff to submit to the province as part of the municipality's drinking water license renewal. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Urick and seconded by Councillor Greenfield. Is there any discussion on this matter? Councillor Bartley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know 2 weeks ago when the consultant was here, we agreed that we had to pass this to get it back to the government by the 11th of December. And I asked at the time, does that mean it'll be cast in stone? And the answer was no. I don't know when I want to bring it forward. I am concerned about it, considering we are, and I understand why, we are one of the most expensive municipalities around for water and wastewater. In an effort to try to slow it down a little bit, what we're going to do is we're going to put the lump of the costs, future costs, onto businesses, and I'm not happy about that. In an effort, and maybe, I don't know if there's anybody here could tell me if I'm barking up the wrong tree or not, but it's a 10-year plan, and it's a very aggressive 10-year plan. At the end of the 10 years, our assets are going to double. It's very aggressive, and I'm just wondering, without causing any issues with quality of water, can we make it a 15-year plan and push the costs out to 15 years in the same, because it's a very aggressive plan. We're doing a lot of work, but the businesses are going to pay dearly at the end of this 9 years. And I was just wondering, am I barking up the wrong tree, or can we bring it forward at some time?
And may I ask Director Wiley or Emily, can you speak to that?
I can start through you. I can start and you can correct me if I'm wrong. And Val will probably chime in too. My understanding, and I also understand that it's confusing, is there are two separate things, and go ahead.
Through you, your worship, the two things was actually 2 weeks ago. You weren't here that meeting, but they passed the one for the businesses. So we're doing the second scenario. That was how we made the financial plan. To lengthen it out to 15 years, for the sake of the financial plan, we can't do, but for the sake of the rate study, I think we can look at that.
Any follow-up, Councillor Bartley?
So are you going to initiate my thought process and bring it back, or?
Through you, Madam Chair. I can definitely look at the 10-year plan and see what we can shift. As well, I think budget is still being looked at this year anyways, so I think a lot of us are just ready to look at it again and sharpen the pencils.
I certainly appreciate it, and just it actually, we had an 8% plan. It's going to drop to 5% on the one side, but businesses are going to be doubled by the end of the 10 years, and I'm concerned about that. And I'm not a mathematician, but the only way I could reduce the costs is spread the workload that we're doing over a longer time. I'd like some consideration given to that.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Councillor Bell?
So, Madam Deputy Mayor. So I like what you've just said, Councillor Bartley. And it's always about the water rates. I did a little bit of thumbnail kind of calculating. There's a thought process I think we're all aware of, that people think that water's cheap. that it's borderline being a free thing that we should kind of get. But I just, for folks who are going to have to pay this and who are currently paying this in the urban center, I think the report said that I think we're somewhere around $3 a day now, and I think it's heading towards $5 a day in the future. So at $5 a day over the course of a year, it's $1,825. People are going to say, well, it's nigh on to $2,000 just to have water and what we need in our home and the business. Well, I've also did a little bit of calculating for rural residents. Really tough to drill a well for 10 grand. You're probably looking at 15 grand. Tough to do a septic system for 40, 45,000. For just for the sake of a number at $60,000 to service that, you're either going to be doing your personal line of credit or something, and just the interest alone on 60 grand, you're probably looking at $1,400 a month. To whittle that down, the $60,000 commitment that you needed to do, it's going to be really tough on the family unit or the business to get that paid off in 5 or 6 years. So in 5 or 6 years, rural communities trying to get a bill of $60,000 paid up. At $2,000 a year in town, over the course of 5 years, you're spending $12,000. My point, the water that's delivered to those on the service in the urban center, I still believe that it is great value for what you are buying, and your water is tested, and we're under the law to deliver that clean drinking water in a rural environment. I've got my own filters and my own UV lights, and I take the water to get tested on our own. So overall, I'm hoping I'm giving comfort to those in the urban usage. I believe you are getting great value for the commodity that you are purchasing. So, but I do understand what my fellow councillor Bartley has just said about a financial commitment, no matter what. Another 2 grand a year is 2 grand a year. So I also understand that. Thank you.
And I appreciate your comments, both of you, Tony and Steve. And I believe, Val, did you wish to add a thought?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Keaveney, we haven't set the rates for the water yet. Yes, it was recommended last time. We still have to bring our fees and charges back. And at that time, if you need to have a discussion at that time, we can. Our issue right now is in order for us to get our licensing, we kind of have to approve this plan. I think when the original plan was created, I think at that time we had discussed, like, it fluctuated up and down, and I think we went with a flat amount. So we can always go back to that, I believe.
Thanks, Val. Councillor Urick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I agree with you, Steve. I think that's a really good comment. You did say something though, and you said we can't change the 10-year plan, but we can look at the 10-year financial plan, but we can look at the 15-year work. Are the two mutually exclusive? Like, I'm not sure how that works, because I thought if you're extending it, how are they not tied together?
Through you, Madam Chair, the financial plan says that this is the work we hope to do, and this is how much it's going to cost to do it. These are the developments we hope to put online, and this is how much we should get from them. But the rate study says all the fees that would need to be paid. But if we change the rate study and the plan for the works we want to do out to 15 years, we're still financially responsible. And the financial plan is just saying, we promise to be financially responsible for the works we plan to do. If we change the works we're going to do in the 10-year, then that's part of the rate study and the rates that we're going to make in the fees and charges every year.
Thanks, Emily. Any further discussion, Councillor Greenfield?
Thanks, Lady Chair. Not really a question, but I appreciate certainly the point that Councillor Bartley brought up. We did hire Watson and Associates to develop this plan, and certainly when I read it and saw increases. I thought, not good news for a certain component of our municipality. But I think Watson likely took into consideration all the options and thought that, hey, look, there needed to be some more monies coming in, so we need some kind of a plan. Um, I don't disagree with it. It's another bitter pill to swallow, but I think if we can look forward to another item that's coming in on our agenda in a few minutes, and that was BWQMS report, and it it's so much more than turning on a tap and getting water. I mean, the standards, the requirements, the bookwork. I mean, I wish we could all go out to the well and run the hand pump and have a pure, ample supply of water, but that's not the way it is. There are a lot of conditions that have to be met, and it seems there's more every year, and they're always more expensive every year. So we have this plan, we have this report, and I'm not comfortable, but I'm willing to go ahead with what we have as written.
Councillor Urick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if you're talking about making, you still need this in by December 11th, like that's, so the problem is that under your auspice, Councillor Bartley, do we have to make an amendment to this if we're going to say it's a 10-year plan, 10-year financial plan, but a 15-year kind of work plan? Do we need to make kind of official change in that?
No, Val, go ahead.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Kenner. The thing is, we have to have a financial plan, and it's a projection. Technically, it's a projection. So if we budget in a current year and our rates don't need to be whatever it says, probably that's fine. But the projection plan here is just a projection. It's just, this is what we believe is going to happen. If we extend it over the 15 years, I think it's okay. I don't think we have to follow the plan to the letter because we change our budget every year.
Thank you, Jessica.
I think through the chair, I think the important piece is, and I was just reading the resolution, we just need this approval to get our license renewal, which includes a financial plan that says we're not going to do anything crazy. And we have the opportunity then through fees and charges annually to address the fluctuation in the fees themselves. I hope that helps make people feel a little bit better, because I understand how the two seem a little confusing.
Yep, Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Keaveney. And I appreciate that, and I'm okay for passing this today. I have some deep concerns, and I don't have an answer how to fix it. I don't want to do a walker and get into trouble with water or wastewater. I want to know if somehow can we ease it, because actually 2 weeks ago, we're doubling the costs in the 10 years, doubling it. And that scares me. I'm not on the system and it scares me. So that's where I was going with that. And we can look at it not today, down the road, but I'm going to throw another monkey wrench into the window. A few weeks ago, I asked if we could do a mock-up of how we're going to pay for the new sewage treatment plant. And that's part of this. And I kind of didn't get anywhere with it, got kind of shot down on it. We may have to hire a consultant to do it for us, but I have no idea how we would come up with $130 million and pay for it. And before we proceed any further with it, I think we should do a mock-up, have somebody show us what it's going to cost, how we're going to pay for it. Is it at all possible? I don't believe it's possible. Is that a silly thing to do, is to have somebody look at before we go any further and ask the government for money and it still can't do it? I think we should do a mock-up of how it should happen. Is that a good idea or a bad idea?
And who'd like to answer? Councillor Bartley, Jessica?
Through the chair, there's no bad ideas ever. I think that I think we've continued to ask for money because that's the right thing to do, because whatever we end up doing will require some sort of funding. So I feel like we've done that again. We'll see what they say. We're at a tough spot at the moment, not having design completed to really understand what the costs are. So I don't think it's a bad idea. And part of the design component will most likely include a financial piece that will say, probably here's your options and here's what they're going to cost. We're just starting that part of the process now. So it's hard right now to say what that might be just because we don't know, but we can soon. And at that stage in the game, once we have that, it'll be a decision that we need to make. You're right.
Thank you. And I know we're asking for 30 million right now. That's from old numbers. The new numbers are tripled. I believe that $30 million request should be much higher.
Yes, through the chair, that's a big part of where we're at as well with the design is recognizing the EA says one thing, but that things have changed since 2018. So hence why it's hard right now to be able to say that. But we need to go through the exercise we're doing now to get the right costs based on market value.
Thank you. Any further questions? So I think what you're asking, Councillor Bartley, is important, and I think of the Rockwood Terrace build at the county, $97 million, give or take, and we did have that breakdown at County Council, so that would be helpful in this project, and I suspect we're still looking at phasing the project, which may help financially, or are we looking at kind of trying to do the whole build at once?
Through the chair, I think part of, and I don't want to get too much into the details because we will release a tender which will outline everything. And I don't want to sit here and tell you what that will look like in advance. But I think we're looking at whatever the best option is for us, given our existing capacity and where we think we're going to be. Plus the financial component. So I can't say that that'll be phased or not at this point. We're just looking for what the best choice would be for us as a community.
And I appreciate that, Jessica. Okay, so is everyone comfortable now? Then I'll call for an all in favor. Thank you. Next, FIN 2024-21 Budget Process Update. The recommendation that Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, direct staff to schedule additional budget meetings and the dates
Sorry,
throughout.
Deputy Mayor, that was the draft agenda. The
Oh, we have something
copy I
different.
gave you at the beginning. Yeah, the recommendation changed slightly, so.
Forgive me, I will,
That's okay.
I had some notes on my draft, so I was working with that.
Yep.
Okay. So we'll start again with my apologies. FIN 2024-21 Budget Process Update. The recommendation that Council of the Municipality of Meaford direct staff to proceed with the revised budget schedule as outlined in FIN 2024-21. May I have a mover to put that on the table, please? Councillor Greenfield, and a seconder, Councillor Urick. And any discussion on this report? Councillor Bartley?
Thank you, Chair Keaveney. Not that it matters a whole lot. February 11th, I will not be here. If that date can be changed, that's fine. If not, I'm sure we'll be ready before then anyways.
We'll do our best. Okay. And no other discussion on this report? Then I will call the vote. All in favor? Thank you. The next one, DEV 2024-28, kennel license for 397531 concession 10. The recommendation that Council of the Municipality of Meaford approve the commercial kennel license operation to Stephen Olszewski and Moira Riley on the lands known as 397531 10th Concession. May I have a mover to put that on the table, please? Councillor Bartley, and a seconder. Can I pick on you, Councillor Bell? Thank you. And any discussion on this report? No, not seeing any hands raised. Looks like everybody is comfortable with the report as presented. I'll call for an all in favor. Thank you. Next, DEV 2024-29 telecommunications protocol update. The recommendation that Council of the Municipality of Meaford received DEV 2024-29 telecommunications protocol update, approve a new telecommunications review process, and authorize staff to contract consulting services for providing review and oversight of the process for siting telecommunications towers, with the cost of the consulting services to be borne by applicants for new telecommunications facilities. May I have a mover to put that on the table, please? Councillor Uhrig, and a seconder, Councillor Bartley. And discussion on this matter? I'm looking at you, Councillor Uhrig. Did you want to start that one?
You know what? Councillor Bartley has his hand up. I'm gonna let him go first.
Okay, over to you, Steve.
I'll make this short and sweet. Thank you, Chair Keaveney. I noticed that the town of Blue Mountains is going to do their own. Is that something we could do, is maybe have them do ours? I know Georgian Bluffs has Owen Sound do their planning, does their bylaw. Instead of hiring a consultant, could we piggyback on the town of Blue Mountains?
Through you, Madam Chair. So that's a good question. I have no idea if we could do that. I would suggest they probably don't have time right now either because they have short staff issues within their department. I did not work on any of the telecommunications when I worked at Town of the Blue Mountains, so I'm not sure how much time it took. But I would say their protocol is very extensive compared to what we use currently. And it's very specific. So there are areas where they're not preferred locations already identified. But I think it's a good question moving forward. Is there a way to combine those types of things together? So for example, could we create a new protocol where we use something like they're using and then share that review? But I'm not sure it will work for our initial ask. And the reason for that is we do have someone, and I think it mentions it. I wrote this a little while ago, a couple weeks ago. So now I'm trying to remember what it says. I probably should have read it before starting to talk. We have an application coming forward for 2 towers, and they have been waiting already a little while because of this issue that we can't send it off to this CRINS review agency, this third-party agency. And so because of that, I feel like there is a reason to be a little bit more timely than trying to create a process like that. Although I like the direction of the question Councillor Bartley's put, that I think that is always a good opportunity to work with a neighbor if they're doing something really well already and kind of work with that process. So I don't know if that answers the question satisfactorily right now, but I think it could be down the road.
Okay, and Councillor Uhrig?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So yeah, there's a couple of questions in there. One being, so there, you said there was an application for 2 towers. These are obvious question is where are we talking? Is this the urban landscape or is this rural urban combined? And what size of towers are we talking about? Specific reason for asking.
And Denise?
To you, Madam Chair. So I actually don't have an answer to either of those questions because I haven't seen these applications. I think we've just been asked, what is your process? And we usually say, oh, go talk to this other agency. And then once they make that application, then we start finding out a little bit more about it. In this case, because we didn't have that process, I've been trying to bring this report to you, and Alex can give me the side eye that she knows this was on the agenda in September and ended up getting pushed off. So it has been sitting around. So because I think we had a few draft things in those folders for a while that end up having to get moved on. But I don't have the particulars about where both of these are. I was recently made aware of the second tower was also an ask through the same agent. So they're bringing a proposal for a second one, but I don't know if they're the over 15-meter ones or below or what they are.
The reason I ask is because it was about a year and a half ago that Brandon, Councillor Porter, and myself were invited to meet with a company that wanted to come into urban Meaford. And we passed on the information. It actually was very intriguing because, and again, they were looking to put not large towers, but small towers around to help cellular, which would also facilitate the possibility of fiber. I passed that information on to the past two CAOs, EOs, and never really heard back whether there was any communication between them and this person. Because this particular company has already done this in a couple of municipalities down Niagara region, but with great success, and they're not imposing or onerous. It's a smaller tower technology, which is less invasive. It sits on municipal land. So I'm just very curious as to whether this is the same. If not, I'm be very disappointed that we didn't have contact with that company, because they did reach out many times to try and talk to our CAOs to try and get this kind of process started. And from all indications, I don't think they had a lot of luck.
Denise?
So thank you, Madam Chair, through you. So I'm 90% sure it's not the same structures that from that previous inquiry. I think these are both the traditional rural ones out in the, in the countryside. I wish I could tell you the general location. I can't recall right now and off the top of my head. As I think one of them I do know, the other one I just know of its existence, that it would be coming, because I think the person who's the agent on those is anticipating starting something immediately as soon as we have direction of what that process is, whether they're applying to us, paying the fee, and then we pass it off to somebody, or whether we try to do that review with the draft, that kind of like stand-in protocol that is there by the government already that we can use. Those are probably new. If you want to re-forward that information, I'm sure we can try to see if there's a way to facilitate that. That would be different, because I think what you're talking about is, so Councillor Urig's question about on public lands, and then that would be a bit more of a partnership, public-private partnership. We can see what we can do to try to revive that.
Councillor Urick, a follow-up?
Thank you. Yeah, I will definitely do that. And then I think why we should do that, if we're already hiring a consultant to kind of look at telecommunications processes already, then rather than have to go out and do that again at another time, because this was more in the urban landscape, because we do have cell degradation because we're in the valley. So there is problems with cellular service here. So if we're already going to enlist a consultant to work on telecommunications solutions, period, we should envelope that in, as opposed to having to pay them again down the road. So I will definitely send you the information, and hopefully we can kind of put that all together.
Thank you. Councillor Greenfield, did I see your hand?
Thank you, Lady Chair. The recommendation calls for contracting consulting services to provide a review, and I think that's a great idea. I guess my first question is, if we pass this, will that consultant fee be in our included in our 2025 budget? Maybe it already is. I'm not sure. And secondly, I'm wondering about this. I believe it's a $2,800 fee for the towers for the research and the work. And is that an updated amount, or is that one that has been around for a while?
Through you, Madam
Denise?
Chair, to Councillor Greenfield's question. So that $2,800 is almost exactly how it's been for about 10 years. I think the report that my report attaches, it was 2,500 or it went from 500 and it was increased. And that was to pay for things like advertising costs. If we had to advertise, for example, in the newspaper, that cost is substantial. Especially if we're doing 2 newspapers, it may have been different at that time, but it was for those types of costs and that limited amount of staff time, maybe 1 or 2 reports that would come back. That's the municipal fee, and then we don't need an extra ask for the external fee. We would just pay whatever the external fee is. We were doing that already with the CRINS organization. So any costs from them, we just pass that off to the applicant. So this would be the same process for from the applicant's perspective, just we don't know exactly what that fee will be until we actually put that out, requesting assistance from a consultant.
Councillor Greenfield?
Thanks, Ms. McCarl, if I may, Lady Chair. Okay, we will know the location, proposed location of this tower, and the public will have ample time to make comments, either in favor or not in favor. Okay, that's good. A number of years ago, we had a proposal for a tower on the former Knights of Meaford property, and I think if you do a drive-by today, you don't see a tower there. So it'll be interesting.
It will indeed. Any further questions on this report? Then I will call for an all in favor. Thank you. Okay, we're ready to move into Committee of the Whole. May I have a mover and seconder, Councillor Bell and Councillor Bartley? The recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Meaford hereby go into Committee of the Whole at 2:34 p.m. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, our next report is from Operations. OPS 2024-14, the annual DWQMS audit results and management review. The recommendation that Committee of the Whole receive report OPS 2024-14, annual DWQMS audit results and management review for information purposes. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Uhrig and a seconded by Councillor Greenfield. And is there discussion on this report? Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Overall, the report is a very positive report. It's a very good, very solid findings. There are a couple of areas where it is called opportunity for improvements. And I think, like all reviews of all systems, that would probably be a pretty standard result from someone having an overview of anyone's procedures, that there is always room for opportunity for improvement. I do have a question though, and it's on page 221 of our report. It's from the Teferis group when they did their findings. And it says an opportunity for improvement document control. And it is item 2, an uncontrolled hydrant flushing spreadsheet. It does not identify which operator completed for traceability, a supervisor signing off or oversight, or a complete list of hydrants. It's the last line on that I do have a question on. It leads me to wonder, do we not know how many hydrants we have? Because I think we probably do, and why they would write a line like that. But more importantly, on the spreadsheet for hydrant flushing.
Emily?
For you, Madam Chair. So we do know how many hydrants we have, but with asset management, our hydrants don't go in order anymore from 0 or 1 to 242. So every time we replace infrastructure and add a new hydrant, it becomes like 275. It doesn't just add another whatever. If you replace 37, it doesn't become 37 anymore. So when we're flushing, the list that we have has the hydrant number beside it, not necessarily how many hydrants. So she wanted us to add a column. It's very finicky to say that this was 50 out of whatever, how many hydrants we're flushing. So, document control.
Exactly.
It's easier when it's on the computer because it's right there on the Excel spreadsheet, but once you print it, it's no longer there.
Well, I'm glad you've maintained a sense of humor about it, Emily. Any other questions? Councillor Bartley?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Keaveney. And just a comment. I've been through audits all my life, nothing to this extent. The auditors are not going to give you a perfect score. They will look and look and look till they find something. They have to have something. So no reflection on you. This is a really good audit. Thank you.
So well said, Steve, and I echo your comments. I mean, it's just incredible, Emily, and so well done, and congratulations, and thank you. Were there any other questions? Councillor Urick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll echo it. It's a great report and it's actually good news. So no problem there. My concern is always, I'm feeling sorry for you. How is the staffing going? Because that's always the fun part.
Through you, Madam Chair. We are finally full staff as of 2 weeks ago. So things are really looking up. I think we have a great team, a mix of mature and younger people. So it's great. I'm also very proud. We've now have a female operator. So I was the female operator years ago, and now I finally got another one.
That's good news. Councillor Greenfield?
Thanks again.
I'm not touching it.
Through to Emily, help me a little bit, Emily. First of all, I appreciate Councillor Urick's question. I was wondering about the staffing situation, but the Tavares report is dated May. Was there another investigation through the year? Is it just this one study by the Ms. Tavares, or is that it, or are there? Okay, so that's the gospel then. As far as the report, I guess if that's the case, if it was done in May, seems to me we're into December now. Is that?
Through you, Madam
Does it
Chair.
take that long?
So there's other things throughout the year that we have to do after the annual audits to meet our standard of care for the system. So that's why you're receiving this report. So the management review has to be done after we do our emergency training. It has to be done after we do all of those things. So I'm not going to do a report just for the audits and then the missing component is the management review. Because those are both requirements to come to council. So it's just easier to do the one report and have everything encompass with each other, so.
Councillor Greenfield?
Thanks, Emily, for that. And as I mentioned before, I hope at least some of our members of the public take a few minutes to look at just some of this report and some of the items that the inspectors look at and that our staff is responsible for responding to, and that's not just once a year, it's every day, and there's just so much involved. Thanks for all your help, Emily, to you and your crew.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Greenfield. Any further questions? I just had one, if I may, Emily. I'm on page 17 of 46, under the results of the infrastructure review, and we're talking about cast iron. And I understand that we're dealing with Trowbridge this year, but can you give us some sort of an idea of how much more iron do we have under the ground that we have to deal with?
through you. I think it's something like 13 kilometers left. They've really liked it. I would have to ask Steve, for the actual numbers. I know I got the asbestos concrete numbers not too long ago, and I was actually surprised at how much we have of that, but I like asbestos concrete a lot better than cast iron, but, it's not a great number. Especially 4-inch cast iron. It's the majority of it.
So that means then that as we look at capital projects and upcoming budgets, that those particular streets may become priorities so that we can get in there and replace, yeah, that cast iron.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for that, Emily. And another question, Councillor Greenfield?
I can only guess that the number replaced is much higher than the 13 kilometers. Yeah.
That's good. Councillor Urick, did I see your hand? No? You good? This side of the table, are we good? Okay, then I will call the question. All in favor? Thank you, and congratulations again, Emily. Great report. Updates from members appointed to county council committees and local boards. So I'll just shuffle my papers here for the county update. And the most exciting thing that's happened at Grey County is that we had our inauguration last Tuesday of the new warden for 2025. So the mayor of town of the Blue Mountains, Andrea Matrosovs, was acclaimed as warden. So we now have a new warden, and very exciting to have the third female warden now at Grey County. So congratulations to Mayor Matrosovs. County Council met on November the 28th. And that was the last, of course, for past warden now, Brian Milne. And Brian is truly an eloquent speaker, and he gave a very moving closing address that if anybody's interested, you could find it in the minutes of the county meeting. But he talked about how council has been focused on advancing our strategic priorities, how we've worked together collaboratively, even during difficult budget deliberations, as we've had here locally. We certainly did last year at the county as well. He talked about committing the $97 million to Rockwood Terrace in Durham, the new paramedic base that is moving forward in Durham as well, and the new roundabout that has just been completed at the juncture of County Roads 3 and 4 in the municipality of West Grey. So as well as that, reconstruction of sections of County Roads 9, 13, 14, 16, and 40 has been completed. Reconciliation has been really important to Warden Milne, and he spoke about the different aspects of how we've advanced actions towards reconciliation in Grey County. And he reminded us to be a friend before you need a friend, and I just thought that was wise advice. There were 3 presentations at that meeting. The first from Lloyd Lewis, who spoke to perceived road safety issues along Grey Road 1. That's the 8-kilometer stretch between Owen Sound and East Linton. The gallery was absolutely full of residents, all there to support the presentation. Reconstruction work is planned on that section for 2030, but people are very concerned about cyclists on that road, and many edges of the pavement are breaking, and they would like to see that moved up in the schedule. Just as a note, the county has 304 kilometers that already have paved shoulders of their 887 kilometers of road. So I think that's a pretty good ratio. The second presenter, Stephanie Keating from NII, the Nuclear Innovation Institute, spoke about climate projects underway. She addressed 3 chapters from NII's plan, Air, Water, and Land. And she talked about how fewer days now with ice-covered lakes leads to more extreme weather and erosion for our shorelines. And we've certainly experienced that here in Meaford. More information at their website, climateproject.ca, on the NII's website. Meaford's own Annette Pedler spoke next, and she's the executive director now of Safe and Sound in Owen Sound. And she spoke about the challenges that she's facing with more and more demands for support and she just doesn't have the capacity to meet that need. She asked County Council to craft a support letter for her grant application. She's looking to do a feasibility assessment for emergency shelter needs in the county. And if she is successful with that grant, she's hoping for funding for more beds because we absolutely do not have enough beds to get people out of the cold. Other reports included a further discussion on the proposed centralized planning service delivery. Feedback was requested from planning staff and all of the lower tiers, and I know that Meaford has participated in that. The town of the Blue Mountains has already passed a motion stating that they are not interested in continuing following through on considering this option to share service. Okay, and I believe I imagine we'll have further discussion on this in the new year. County staff are looking for a 2/3 majority to continue to go forward. Okay, we discussed an update to the county's purchasing policy, and it was decided that any purchase that comes in 20% or more above the approved budget number would come back to council in a report for our consideration. We'll have our first county budget day this Friday, and that'll be a full day with presentations from directors at the county level. They're sitting right now with their proposed increase at 3.19%. And that is it for that report. Are there any other boards that have met or committees? Councillor Urick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Grace Elbow Conservation Authority Board met on November 24th for the final GSCA board meeting of 2024. It was a busy meeting with a legal services tender awarded to Smith Villariat Law Firm for planning municipal and provincial offenses related law services not covered by the GSCA Grey County Agreement, Hicks Morley for employment, labor relations, and MFIPA related law services, and Middleborough and Stevens of Owen Sound for all other law services. There was also a hardwood forestry tender for a GSCA property in Grey Highlands, with the Bester Forest Products securing the contract with a bid of $247,000. There were presentations for an ice management plan for the various dams and harbors, including Meaford's Harbor, and as legislated by the province of Ontario, a watershed-based resource management strategy and a conservation land strategy. The GSCA received a $25,000 donation from the Grace Elbow Conservation Foundation towards the GSCA education program. Finally, the GSCA had their Christmas luncheon on December 5th and recognized a number of their staff by awarding pins for terms of service. The GSCA has a dedicated core with many members receiving long-term recognition, but in particular, John Bittorf received special recognition for his almost 40 years of service. The GSCA would like to thank all of its member municipalities and wishes everyone a safe and happy holiday season.
Thank you, Rob. Councillor Greenfield.
Thanks again, Deputy Mayor Keaveney. Just going back to the county council report, you mentioned the third lady warden in I believe it'd be 62 years. That's interesting. And what would be even more interesting if in the immediate future there were back-to-back lady wardens at Grey County.
Councillor Greenfield, are there any other boards or committees who have recently met? Oh, talking about women taking over the world a little earlier, Harley. So yes, you never know. Okay, so we will now need a motion to move out of committee of the whole. May I have that motion, please? Councillor Bartley and seconded by Councillor Urick, and that is occurring at 2:51. And next on the agenda, councillor motions. Is there any notice of motion today? And I'm thinking you might have something at this point, Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. So I, Councillor Bell, move that we forego our procedural bylaw when it comes to issuing a notice of motion and move directly to a notice for decision. And the wording that I have for your consideration today, fellow councillors, is it therefore be it resolved that the municipality of Meaford has no new hires without first coming to council to request the position or positions. And I move that.
So Councillor Bell, you are asking for us to waive the procedural bylaw today and address your motion right here this afternoon. Okay, so first of all, is there a seconder to waive that procedural bylaw so we can have discussion on Councillor Bell's motion? Councillor Bartley, any discussion on that request to waive the procedural bylaw? Seeing none, all in, sorry, Councillor Urick?
I think it's just important, I think, for the public to hear when you're clarifying that when you said no new hires, meaning no new positions. If a replacement staff is required, staff can still fill that position, but it's just, I think, very important to clarify.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm just clarifying, yeah.
yeah, at that, this, correct, at this point, we're just making the motion to waive the procedural bylaws. So is there any discussion on that request? We have it moved and seconded. So all in favor? Thank you. And now we'll come back to you, Councillor Bell, if you could speak again to the motion that you would like to bring forward today.
Certainly. Speak to it or repeat what I have written.
That would be perfect if you could repeat what you have written.
Okay, therefore be it resolved that the municipality of Meaford has no new hires without first coming to council to request a position or positions.
And you are moving that, Councillor Bell. And is there a seconder for Councillor Bell's motion so that we can put it on the floor and discuss it? To discuss it, Councillor Bartley, thank you. Okay, so now I'll open the floor for discussion on the motion that Councillor Bell has just brought to us. Councillor Urick.
So I wish I had said no. So yes, presumably, just so the public is aware, just so I'm clear as well, because I wasn't at that meeting as well, that unfortunately I only was able to participate in part of it. But I believe it was the fact that it was no new hires have to be okay. Replacement of existing position hires are able to go ahead because that could potentially create issues with replacing snowplow or other essential services that we require, correct?
That would be absolutely my thinking, Councillor Urick. And my thinking on this also is I think that overall, the municipality of Meaford needs to let all of our ratepayers know that they can still have good faith in the governance which is over them. And that I think that it'll make for our better communications to a great degree on what we're trying to accomplish as an organization. And the corporation needs to have a sound footing when it comes to how many folks we have and what they're doing. And that'll all help when we put together our organizational chart, that we can be very clear to support the needs of our staff. And it'll come in an open meeting so that the ratepayers can hear us and have a better understanding of how we move forward. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Any further discussion? Councillor Bartley?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Keaveney. I'm just wondering when we could get an org chart so we have a starting point of when we proceed with this. A present org chart.
Yep. Bell?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Keaveney. Sarah and I have been working on that. Hopefully the first meeting in January. If not earlier, but it would be a public piece. So I would say first part of January, you will get a full org chart.
I thank you. I don't want to put extra pressure on you, Val, but it's very important if we're going to go forward with this.
Councillor Greenfield?
Thank you, again, Lady Chair. When this chart comes forward, and I certainly don't object to waiting until the new year. And I don't know if I'm tempting to make an amendment to Councillor Bell's notice, but once council is presented with this chart, I'll be quite honest with you. I'm not exactly sure of the positions we have and the people who are serving in those positions. I have a very good idea, but I'd like the assurance that council has an opportunity to comment on that current chart, as well as what Councillor Bell is suggesting today.
Val?
Through you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor Keaveney, can I ask for a bit of clarification? So are we looking at our approved budget for 2024 and the positions that are there, plus the positions that could possibly have been added during this year? And that is what you're looking for completely? Okay. The other piece to that is any positions or any positions that are being filled currently at this point in time, if they are an existing position approved from the 2024 budget, is that okay to hire those positions?
Councillor Bell?
My thinking, Madam Deputy Mayor, is that moving forward from this day onward. So what we've had in place before, we have in place from before. Because we're just going back and we're revamping. So my thoughts are the moving forward for transparency.
That's okay. The only reason I'm asking those questions is because in my own department, I am missing people. And if I cannot hire those now, that could be a problem.
So for full clarity, you were saying, Councillor Bell, in terms of your motion, that Val has full authority from this council to go ahead and hire the staff that she needs in her department. Because for clarity on, I think what your motion is bringing forward, in the budget process, we generally approve, funding for new members of staff, new positions. But throughout the year, other staff may be hired that don't go through that same process. So then we are not aware of those new positions created. That's where you're coming from, because I think I just want full clarity on that, because we recognize there is a little bit of a fine line here, because we will recruit for a new CAO, and it is the role of the CAO to hire and manage the staff. So I just want to be completely clear on what we are discussing here, which is just additional brand new roles outside of anything existing in the current org chart. That's correct, Councillor Bell? Okay. Further discussion? Councillor Urick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So why this just gets a little dicey, because we just went through a little turbulence. And for example, we did have an economic development director. Presumably, you're not going to go get another economic development director right now. And whether we want an economic development director, or literally as a director position. So when you said that you're making up the org chart and it exists from this day more forward, we literally just had that position. Is that position in the org chart? Because theoretically, it existed up until he resigned, but it literally existed up until like he left. So is that part of the org chart? I didn't say it was going to be easy.
Through your Deputy Mayor Keaveney, in order to get our budget in a reasonable state, we will probably have to figure out what positions can stay and what positions can go. Currently, there is not in the presentation of the 2025 budget, there was a director of economic development. At this stage in the game, if we were to start from scratch and go back to 2024 and only add the positions that are currently in existence currently, that position would not be in a new org chart, if that's your question.
Sort of, because yes, because we also have other positions that we would like to fill that are vacant now, but they will be included. So what I think the org chart, you did say something earlier and you said what exists and kind of what the wish list is or what you think is really needed to fill the gaps in what is missing now. The ECDev director is that gray area, like, because I want an ECDev department, doesn't necessarily need to be an ECDev director. So presumably, hopefully, that there's somebody in there in some capacity in ECDev, but not necessarily a director position. So there's got to be some forecasting that's done based on kind of where we were, where we want to go.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Keaveney, currently in the 2024 budget, there was an economic development coordinator budget person. So there was one person that was budgeted for economic development in the 2024 budget. That would not be removed. And currently that particular position doesn't exist, but there is a position similar to that in our organization. I can't, until we get the org chart piece settled, I can't answer that question.
Okay. Because we have had meetings and we talked about wanting the continuation of some kind of an ECDev department, and just having a coordinator to me doesn't really sound like a department. Sounds like a rather kind of mid-level role. So you're right, we're gonna have to look at this org chart and determine how to move forward from there. I'm just saying to council that my desire is to have more than just literally an ECDev coordinator, because I think we're gonna have an ECDev manager, I'm gonna use that word for lack of a better term, not necessarily a director, but I think if we're gonna have a department, there's gotta be more of a structure to that. So talk amongst yourselves, but that's my kind of request.
And I appreciate that, Councillor Urick, and you and I agree on a focus on economic development. I think what is on my mind in relation to all of this is we are right now without a CAO, and as we bring in a new CAO, he or she may have some ideas on how they might like to restructure the staff within our organization. We don't know that at this point. That's just an assumption I might make, and so I just want to be careful about not handcuffing that individual in any way. So I see Alex on the screen has highlighted another therefore be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Meaford directs staff to bring a report to Council with requests for new staff positions during the 2025 draft budget discussions. So I don't know if you want to expand on that at all, Alex or Val?
Yes, just from a procedural standpoint, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I did want to capture the essence of Councillor Bell's motion. I just like to stay away from negative motions, so no new positions is sort of a negative. If we could make it into a positive, that sort of it drives an action from staff. So that's what I changed. If that's okay with you. And then I just added the 2025 draft budget discussions just to be a little bit more specific about what exactly you're looking for and to make it sort of relevant to sort of what we have coming up. But that's up to you. It was just me sort of, I tried to capture the same essence, just change the wording a little bit. So for your discussion.
Is that acceptable to you, Councillor Bell, in your motion? And is that acceptable to the seconder, Councillor Bartley? Yes? Okay. Further discussion, Councillor Urick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So to your point, I agree that you don't want to maybe set something in place that's going to make a new CAO give them constraints. Having said that, though, trying to seek this department scenario, presumably this motion also covers contract positions as much as it covers full-time positions, because it's still going to be an employee of the municipality regardless whether it's contract or full-time. So my recommendation then would be that to do moving forward in that capacity, it's been something that we've had to a degree. I'd like to see continue to a degree, that would be potentially through the contract basis. So that way it's a through line for the CAO then to determine how best to move forward with that department. Whether that position would become then a full-time position or whether it needs restructuring based on what their desire would be. But it doesn't leave out the possibility or the potentiality of having at least that department there in some capacity.
Correct. So I think what's important in this particular therefore is that the report would come with requests for new staff during the 25 draft budget discussions. So we will have further opportunity to discuss any positions requested during budget. So I think that's the important piece. Further discussion? Anything from staff? No, Val?
I, through you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor Kenner, I think it's fine. I think when you get our PowerPoint presentation for the 2025 budget, I think what we'll do is we'll spell out what we have, we'll spell out what we think we need, and we'll go from there. And then hopefully it'll be built. The part's going to be, the tricky part currently is where it's built into the budget, and we'll have to just remember to pull those numbers out when we need to get to that stage.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification, Val. Thank you. Okay, any further discussion from council? Okay, then we do have the motion on the screen. So if everyone has read that and is comfortable, I will call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Are there any other notices of motion today? Seeing none, we have no motions for decision. Okay, adoption of minutes from the council meetings of November the 19th, 2024 and November the 25th, 2024. The recommendation be it resolved that council of the municipality of Meaford hereby adopt the minutes of the council meetings held on November 19th, 2024 and November 25th, 2024. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Bartley and a seconder, Councillor Urick. Thank you. Any discussion on either of those minutes? I'm assuming we can pass them both together. No discussion on either. All in favor? Thank you. Is there anything from the communications that we need to bring forward? Councillor Urick?
That letter from Business Michael on Lake Street was regarding the planters in front of their building. They've asked, they've said, they've suggested that they'd like to keep them out there because they believe they improve the appearance of the street. But they're obviously, there's concerns about whether they can blow the plow around that or not. So secondly, it says if you agree with the first request, we would ask the plow operator to be notified that they're permission and to take reasonable care not to hit them. So I'm just going to pass it over to Jessica to say the recommendation as to whether or not those will live there or not. Whether in certain levels.
Through the chair, I'm not sure if you're looking for a yes or no on that one, but I think that's going to be something that we take away and provide a response back.
Thank you, Jessica. Councillor Greenfield.
Yeah, I wondered if council would consider taking a look at both number 7 and number 8. Number 7 recommendation from Papineau Cameron was talking about affordable housing and different types of housing construction. It mentioned tiny homes, modular homes, converted shipping containers, which that sounds kind of rough, but I've seen a couple of these and they're good and easily done up. So that's one, and certainly our municipality is, has discussed, the lack of, attainable affordable housing. And then number 8, has to do with, well, most other things, EMS, services. And, I was just wondering, to me, it touches on the, have I got the right number here? It may have even been, number 8. I was thinking about the EMS service that Grey County provides, the home service, the home visits, and, plus our intent to get into a great many health services, in our municipality that we maybe don't, offer. So I was wondering if they were both worth, giving our support to, because they're both issues are very much with us too. So, I would move that, our municipality, I don't know if you want to do them one at a time, but, I'd like to move that we support both of these, recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Greenfield. Is there a seconder for Harley's request to support both number 7 and thank you? And any discussion on the matter? So what we're asking for is support letters to be sent on each of those concerns as Harley just spoke to. So any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. And those are both very important issues. Harley, thanks for bringing that forward. Anything else from communications? I did think probably we should have a quick look at A, which is the Municipality of Meaford Council meeting calendar for next year, 2025. And I would just ask Alex, this is in communication, so you don't need us to approve this, but just now that that's been acknowledged, can you load up our calendars so we know when we're going to be busy next year? That would be terrific. Okay. So nothing more in correspondence then. We do have the confirming bylaw today. The recommendation be it resolved that bylaw 2024-55 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Municipality of Meaford at its regular and special meetings held in the month of December 2024 be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Bartley, seconded by Councillor Uhrig. No discussion. All in favor? Thank you. And I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you at 3:15 p.m.